This is a metaphor to explain preterite and imperfect. Imagine you go to the theater, and you sit down, and at some point the curtains open and you see a stage. Nothing has happened yet, but all of the stuff that is going to be on stage, you're going to describe with imperfect. So I always imagine a market for some reason. I think it's a good one for the metaphor, because I imagine with imperfect saying things like the weather was nice, it was a beautiful morning on a Sunday, there were a lot of people there, there were beautiful stalls, it was this year, historical time, what they were wearing, what they were thinking, how they were feeling, and even some internal things like hopes, what they wanted to do, what they wanted to sell, and what they were doing as well with the gerund. So if I imagine a protagonist, John, someone that we focus on a little bit more, could be that John wanted to sell all of his chickens and John didn't want it, didn't like it when it was very hot. And John was a little bit frustrated that morning because he was a little bit sleepy and stuff like that. All of that would be imperfect because it's describing the way things were. Is all of the context for this story later on. So we have the description of qualities like John was a very responsible worker and he was always on time. And also things are a bit more temporary, like the moods and the feelings and what people were doing, even their location, of course, with a star. And what was there, había, for example. And we would also add here what John or any of the other merchants used to do repeatedly. So maybe John always went to the market on Sunday morning, would always go to the market, or always used to go to the market, because these three are the translations that are possible for imperfect. And then preterite. When do we use the preterite? Well, it's when things start to happen. So maybe John says something to someone or does something or decides to reduce the price of the chickens because he's not selling many. And someone comes in and something else happens, like people do and say things and things happen, which is basically preterite. Preterite is not going to be for the repeated things like going to the market on Sunday, but it's going to be for punctual activities or actions that people do that can happen once or a few times, but it's still very punctual. It's not frequent enough for it to become a habit or for it to become predictable or expected.